Well, hello, podcast world, and hello to Facebook land, as Darth Pat is poking at his monitor. Well, hello,
I heard
everyone.
you missed the message.
Oh, he had a message. He's Mr. Important guy over here. I see how it goes.
No, it was the
Well,
message.
however,
It was the message that said we were now being live streamed.
oh, okay.
I got your live stream right here.
I had to get rid.
I'll
I
buy
had to get rid of that so it wasn't
Oh, I
distracting
see.
me.
Well, hello, everybody. It's me here once again with my cohorts. One's missing. He's in my hometown, Chicago, watching the AEW live pay-per-view. He's actually at the pay-per-view, so I'm stuck here with Darth Pat and Jeremy.
Stuck.
Oh, nice job.
Yeah.
Stuck. I'm stuck. I'm drimmick with you guys. There we go. Drimmick. It's our new catchphrase. It's our new word. You can use drimmick in whatever manner you want.
We prefer to use it in the manner of describing the new gimmicks that WWE's been putting out. They're drimmics.
They're very drimmick. Yeah, drimmick. It's gonna be a new word. Make a shirt of that shit. Copyright it. Put it on a shirt. Sell it. I think it'd be cool. Yeah. So how you fellas doing?
Doing great. You know, we did
Super.
the wife and I did some volunteer time yesterday at the local baseball team, our AAA team for the Phillies.
Yes. So what did you do as far as volunteering? Did you hand out some food? Did you
Yes.
walk around through the stands and got beer for sale? Sale.
You know what? They
I
don't
would've
even have
done
those
that
people.
part.
They don't do that as far as I know. I've not seen the beer people. And I think that has to do with the whole, COVID-19 thing. Because I do remember when I first went there, they had the cotton candy guys and the beer guys walking up and down, but they don't do that anymore. But my wife and I, we were assigned to do, they had this thing called the Burke's picnic patio. And
Yes.
you pay a little bit more
Remember that.
to get tickets. It's like $25, maybe almost 30, somewhere in there. But with that, you have a 2.5-hour buffet, and it's all you can eat as well as all you can drink. They give you snacks and stuff like that, but the food choices aren't bad. They're they're decent. They're your typical buffet type things. You can either get a hamburger, hot dog, fried chicken, baked ziti, baked beans. You got potato salad, coleslaw. You can get condiments for your burger or your hot dog, whichever one you're getting, or both.
Those baked beans.
But yeah, we had some people that came up like 3 times to get food. I was like, damn, dude is hungry.
It's a hungry mofos right there. All right.
But yesterday it was Coca-Cola Park that Coca-Cola, not the park, Coca-Cola company that rented out it. It's got 500 seats and they rented all 500 now. They only had maybe about 100 people, maybe a little bit more show up.
Okay.
And it's crazy because I was asking somebody that came through the line. I was like, you guys are with Coca-Cola, right? And he's like, yeah. I said, you guys get these tickets for free, right? He's like, oh yeah. I said, I'm guessing you just sign up at work, to say, hey, I'm going to go. And they give you 2 tickets or whatever, how many tickets you ask for. He's like, yep. I was like, that's crazy that more people don't take advantage of that. You have 500 available seats and maybe 100 came. Like, that's crazy. A free ticket.
I would be all over it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. A free night at the baseball I don't know if you're limited on tickets, but I saw a family like 6 come in so I'm guessing there wasn't really a big limit, especially if not a lot of people ask for them. They can probably get as many as you want until they're gone. But it was cool. We handed out food. It was a buffet style, so we were serving the food to them. We were putting it on a plate and giving it to them. Because with COVID, anything that's buffet style, the people have to serve it, and then they can give you your plate. You're not allowed to serve yourself anymore with buffets, as most of us know. So it was cool. It was cool. It was all to raise money for my daughter's, cheer program so that they can get new uniforms and stuff. Because one of the things they try not to do, which I think is going to come by to bite some parents in the butt, or just the organization at this time, is they don't charge for uniform purchases because it's a big expense. They're a rec organization. They're not an elite organization, so they're not on that next level. Okay. So they try and eat the cost, but they try to eat that cost through major fundraising too, because I didn't know this until my wife got more involved. those uniforms are freaking expensive. They're like $300 and $400 for a freaking uniform.
For one
Yeah.
uniform.
Remember that
one
from the
uniform.
marching band. The marching band uniforms were costly, so
Yeah, they're freaking expensive.
This is cheer, right?
Yes.
A cheer uniform is
Yes.
for fucking $100. Oh my
Yes.
god.
Yep.
Bro,
Yep.
we could get the basketball uniforms for LCYA cheaper than that.
Yeah, it's really expensive
insane.
because it's a very niche market, and there's not a whole lot. From what I know, there's not a lot of dealers of those type of uniforms because of the material that they're made out of too. It's like I wouldn't say it's a special material, but it's definitely a material that is different than like any other type of normal uniform material. You know, it's not necessarily like a spandex material. It is different, but it's just crazy. So, you know, the organization usually does what they normally do is a big purse bingo raffle type thing, and that usually brings in a very good amount of money to be able to cover those costs.
People like their bingo.
Can't do the bingo because of COVID. You know, they can't necessarily have everybody in a big, huge confined space like that. I mean, they probably could, but they don't want to risk it putting that many people, and who knows what kind of turnout you get because of COVID. You know, people may not feel comfortable with that. So this was the alternative, and people didn't sign up.
I think it's cool. I think it's cool though.
Yeah.
You know, so whatever you would have made like wage wise is what they donated to the cheerleading organization. I mean, that's cool overall.
Yeah.
That's shit. I wish I know. I don't know how long they've been doing that, but I wish I would have known that when I was still looking up there, you know, coaching the basketball. That would have been probably a fucking help for us to pay for kids to get, you know, registration fees and stuff of that nature.
Well,
you know,
they you can also do it, and I might suggest this because of still coaching for that organization that you're talking about, LCYA baby.
The Bulldogs.
Yeah, you can actually do it over at the Phantoms. You can do it at the Phantoms games too.
Really?
Yeah. My concern is what we saw with the organization my daughter's part of is that you're going to get very low turnout. Which, I mean, granted, if you only have
we're used to that. I mean,
if you get 5-6 people, you know, you're still going to raise about $500 to $600. That's still a good chunk of change, even if that goes towards new uniform purchases, you know, or helps out those couple people that can't afford, you know, the registration, but their kids want to play. And we're like, okay, well, we can do this, or you need to do this in order to pay for the kids' registration. Like it's 4 to 5 hours of your time. It's not a huge commitment, you know, it's one time. You could do it one time and be done, you know.
It's just, I don't know. It frustrates me because then, you know, you're going to have students who don't show up. You know, they'll be the ones bitching about something. And it's going to be like, well, here was your option. You know, we could have, you know, instead of forking out money now or doing these, you know, fundraisers, you could have spent 4, 5, 6 hours at a baseball game or a hockey game to, you know, help out, volunteer some time. It's not the end of the world. Just people are just so, I don't know.
Yeah.
Too many people just think things that they're entitled to shit anymore these days and don't want to work for anything.
Yeah.
There's certain amount,
and that's as long as I coach back. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's just a certain amount of people you're just never going to convince to, you know, to do anything. Like, you know, I was in marching band, you know, for 5 years because, you know, getting kids to come out for marching band at my high school is an ordeal. And I don't know if I mentioned this within the last couple of weeks, but this year that school's marching band has 10 kids in it.
Oh yeah, marching band's going way down for most schools.
10. Wow. It's like if you can't get, that's like, well, at that point, it's like, why even bother?
They have a trombone player and 4 drummers.
But the reason I'm probably bringing this up is because we had what was compared to pretty much like every other school that we would play an embarrassingly low number back when I was in high school. But we always still usually had at least 30 kids. They have 10 now. But anyway, during my 5 years in band and the years that preceded that when I wasn't in the band, but my older sister was, and the years that followed after I graduated, but my younger sister was still there. You know, the concession stands at our home football games were run by the band. The band.
Yeah, the parents. Yeah.
And, you know, like the proceeds went to the band and everything. And I remember there was like controversy some years when the football mothers wanted to like tap into the resources from the concession stands to to do something for the football program, and like the band parents went nuts because they say, bullshit, we're the ones who run it for the band. You don't ever come and help for that, so you're not getting any of that money, But the other issue was even within the band, then it was basically the same group of 10 parents who were running those stands every freaking football game. And they would try to convince, just volunteer for one game. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to miss my kids performing then. My mother flipped out on one person one year, finally saying, I have been doing this for 8 years, and I always miss my kid perform because I'm always in this stand every game, every week. You can't do 1 week a year.
No, some people are fucking selfish, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. So
it's not,
it's unfortunate, but yeah, it's really a bit of a pain in the ass to get people to do something for somebody else, basically.
Yeah.
And this wasn't even a situation where it's like I'm asking you to do something for somebody else. Really, it's really more of a situation of like, hey, I'm asking you to do this because this is going to help your kid. This will help us buy new uniforms, buy new instruments, stuff that they need.
And I get it. So I get it from this aspect of being a parent too, with a kid in sports. So, and the school fundraisers, there's fundraisers out the freaking wazoo. Like they really are. Like there's a ton of them. So as a parent, it's like, man, I just did this fundraiser. So you kind of got to pick and choose like your battles where you want to ask people to donate and stuff like that. And I get that, but this type of fundraising where you can go work as a volunteer, do something that's different than what you've been doing, like what your day-to-day job, unless of course you work in like fast food or something like that, then it's kind of like doing the same thing. But it's something different. You get to interact with people that you don't normally do. You can have a good time with it. You can work with other people from the organization. And as a coach, I'm going to do it because I want to be able to get back to the organization. A lot of people don't realize that these organizations that like LCYA and Platinum Rec Cheering, those two organizations, just to name two, or any other nonprofit, the money that they bring in from donations and registrations and stuff like that, that all goes back out the door to pay for costs. It's all, it's not like they sit there and hoard that money and say, oh, I'm going to pay this office, I'm going to pay this off. No, they're nonprofits, or some of them are non-for-profit where everything still has, everything's still got to be accounted for and it's got to be paid out. But either way, there's nobody getting paid by anything. It's all got to be, gone. It's got to be a zero line at the end of the day. And it's, some people think that, I think they have the impression that the people that run the organization are making profit off the, these fundraisers and stuff like that. And it's just not true. It's
nothing.
Everything that you do is just to help the organization. Uniforms, registration costs, Joe and Joe knows this from our LCYA days. Our registration is probably one of the lowest out there because of the fact that we're able to do, one, the leagues that we belong to, and two, the amount of fundraising that parents do participate in allows us to keep a much lower registration. One of the other coaches, the guy that he's actually a basketball coordinator, we looked into wanting to go to a different organization because we're getting tired of the one that we're not organization, but different league, because we're tired of getting into it. But the problem is that league's registration is so low per team. That's one of the other reasons we can keep it low. We looked into going to another league, and the registration cost is about triple. It goes from about 250 to about like 800.
That's just insane.
And that's per team. So we would have to charge, going from like $60, we'd have to charge about $120 per kid, because you got to include ref fees in there that are not included in the registration fee. You got to include there's just other fees that are included in there. It's not just the registration fee. There's other things that are included in that, so it's just, it's crazy to think.
It's a lot. People just don't get it.
Nope.
And some people used to tell me, "Oh, don't you get paid to do this?" I'm like, "No, I don't."
No, coaching's voluntary. No. It's voluntary. The only coaches that get paid are the ones that coach in high school.
Yes. Middle school, elementary probably, yeah. But elementary, middle, yeah. Unless you're in school, you're not getting paid.
No.
Or unless it's an AAU league, then they might get paid to
they pay themselves out of all those fees that they collect. Yeah.
Stipends or some bullshit like that. I don't know. AAU is corrupt in a lot of areas anyway these days. Still has been. So is what it is. I'll say it. I don't care. I've seen a lot of it.
There's AAU for everything now. Like all these travel leagues for softball, that's all AAU stuff. They just call it travel leagues. It's AAU programs. My biggest problem with those type of programs is I don't want to say all of them, but there's a vast majority of them that give parents and athletes the false hope that their kid's going to get drafted into a Division I school and possibly go pro. The likelihood of your kid, and this is to any parent out there, and this is not to say that your kid is not talented by any means and your kid doesn't have a shot at playing at a very high level, but there is a reality that goes with that, and that is the fact that there's raw talent behind the work ethic. And if your athlete and if your coach that's going to coach your kid is not willing to tell you that your kid maybe doesn't have the raw talent to go with the hard work ethic that they need to have, there's a very high likelihood that your kid will not play Division I or Division I or whatever it's considered now in college ball and get a free ride. It is so hard because there's limited scholarships, especially if you're not playing basketball or football. You're talking very limited sports scholarships. And two, if you're not playing men's, if you're not a boy too, which is the other sad thing when it comes to women and women's sports, the likelihood, the scholarship level, the amount of scholarships is even more limited. And it's just the way it is. I mean, we have no control of it, and I don't think it's right, but that's the way it is. It's the high profile sports, which is men's football and men's basketball. Those are the high profile sports for most colleges.
Yeah. No, you're right.
It's all about the money.
That's right. And unfortunately, women's sports and the non-high profile sports, men and women, they're not cash cows. So
no, there's really only two sports that are football and men's basketball.
Yep. Yeah.
That's really it.
It'll always be that way, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, when women's basketball, I still don't think it makes a lot of money. We know it's there all the time. They're trying to make a bigger deal out of course. They're trying to put on the same level as the men's game. I don't think it's ever going to get there. But
I think the only way that professional women's basketball will get to that anticipation of play and wanting to get more viewers, especially the male viewers, is if there's dunking involved. Like if you can get a large majority of women that can dunk in the WNBA.
Yeah, there's only a handful.
Right. You might draw a larger crowd to that because the game has evolved that much because they can shoot just as well as the men. Like there's no doubt. If you've ever watched a WNBA game or even a women's college game, they can shoot the fucking lights out. There ain't no goddamn doubt about it. But the aspect that's missing is the ability to dunk, and in a high majority of the high flying shit. That they're not able to, and that's you could probably say it's probably genetics. I don't really know. Because there are definitely some very tall women black basketball players. They definitely don't have height. They don't have a problem with height.
It's just the reality of it, unfortunately. I watch women's college basketball and I watch the WNBA a lot. I like sports overall in general, like I talked about before, and I love basketball, and I watch all various. I watch high school basketball too, boys, girls. On the local scene and whatnot. I'll watch the games and all that jazz. It's just it's fun to me. I just like watching the sport. And for me, it's kind of like, even though it's college and pro women's, their game is still pure to the aspect where you don't have a lot of the BS flopping and the shenanigans and some of the other shit that comes with the NBA, barely any defense, with showboating, ISOs every goddamn half court play, stuff like that. Like the girls play defense. They actually play, they play smart and everything like that. There's no showboat or say, 14 million crossovers before they decide to shoot a step back 40-foot 3-pointer. It's none of that shit. Like, they actually play. So it's fun for me to watch it because it's more pure basketball per se. And for me in the aspect of how I think about it.
Yeah, the fundamentals, man.
Yeah, the fundamentals and all that jazz. It's just more fun for me to watch. And I like watching like the young people, the young talent that's out there, especially the local area, the local colleges and stuff like that. I'm not fans of really any of them, but it's just me having the joy of just watching basketball in general.
Yeah,
that's really it for me. And watching sports in general too. Well, there's a lot of talented people out there.
Yeah, there's just, and that's the I because I don't want to say I fell out of love with basketball. I just fell out of love with the NBA because it's just like all the things that you pointed out are all the things that hard. I dislike about the current style of play. Like, it's just, I want to see, and unfortunately I don't get to watch pretty much any WNBA because one, I don't have live TV. I haven't had it for a long time. So, I don't get to see that. But when I do get to see highlights and clips, I do notice exactly what you're saying. There's real defense being played. It's not a lot of showboating. It's just play basketball and try and win a game. Like, and that's going to detract people from wanting to watch because you don't get that excitement of the ISOs and the stuff like that they get in the NBA. So there's another detractor from that. But, if you're a purist, I don't want to say a purist, more of a purist of basketball and how it's, how we grew up watching it and playing it, that is a more of an attractive thing to watch. And some high school, high school, I want to say that high school is still more of a towards the purist of fundamentals, but I've seen some high school games where it's run and gun, just like watching an NBA game. Like,
yeah. I've seen some of those too. Majority of it's still more traditional type of basketball per se. I'll just use those words, but yeah, I've seen the boys high school basketball where they're like high flying, and I see this 6'10", 260-pound dude who should be playing on the block like Shaq, and he's jacking up 30-foot 3-pointers, and I'm like, whoa, bro, what are you doing? You just went 1 for 8 right now on threes in the first half of the game.
And see, there's a thing.
Your coach hasn't yelled at you yet. That's amazing.
Like, and see there's a problem for me, as a coach. You can't shoot that many threes and say, like, I'm a good 3-point shooter. If you miss if you make 1 out of 4, that's 25%. That's not good. Like, just take 2 steps in from the 3-point line, just 2. Like, I guarantee your shot percentage goes double. Well, maybe not double, maybe to 40%.
They don't care about that though.
And it's just like, and that's why, like, it's funny. Like, the kids that I've always coached, they always hate it because they're like, Coach, when are you going to let us shoot threes? I'm like, well, when you can become a good 3-point shooter, sure, I would be more than happy to let you shoot threes. But there again, like I said, the dedication that a lot of kids don't understand, the dedication and the work that goes into being a proficient 3-point shooter like a Steph Curry. Like, do you know how many threes he shoots before a game even starts to warm up? No. Like, do you know how many threes he's shooting when there's no practice, when there is practice? Like, do you realize how much he actually puts into his craft before he actually steps on the court and starts jacking up on threes and is shooting 40% from the 3-point line? Do you know what that takes?
these kids just think it's going to come naturally. Not for every. It's a small percentage.
No, especially when Steph Curry came out of the college draft, and they were like, "There's no way this kid's going to succeed. He's too small. He's he's short. He's too skinny. He's this. He's that." And he proved them all wrong. Like, he's none of those things. He might have looked like that, but he's none of those things as far as a player goes.
No, definitely not. Remember when the time. What was it? Okay. So remember Stewart that was on my team?
Stu, yeah.
So remember the one time he was trying, always shooting threes. So I told him he wasn't allowed to shoot threes. So I had to run laps. He was getting aggravated about it. He's like, why can't I shoot threes? I was like, okay, here's the deal. I was like, you and the 2 others that want to keep shooting threes all day long. I was like, it's on you, Stewart. If you can make 9, I gave him an option. So he had to shoot 23s. I said, if you're able to make 9, That's a little below 50%.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you shoot. If you're wide open, I'll let you shoot a 3. Okay, I got this. I said I'll give you 5 warm-up shots. Give 5 warm-up shots. Made 3 out of 5. You know you're on a roll now. Starts now. He made 7 out of 20. I was like, see, this is why I don't want you shooting 3s. The 3 of you guys who always want to shoot 3s, no bueno. Let's get back to practice. Thank you very much. I just proved my point.
Yeah.
He was like, I was close. That's a good percentage. I was like, stop. I said, stop it right now.
Yeah. Yeah. There was one young gentleman that I had the pleasure of coaching for 2 years in a row. But the first year, it was even worse. Like, he was shooting from his hip. Like, that's how hard, like, because he was short. Like, this kid was barely 5 foot. He had to shoot down at his hip. So he's got the ball down here at his hip and he's just chucking and his body's twisted in the air. I'm like, that's not a good shot. Like, you're not even, there's no natural form to your shot. Like, there's just nothing good about what you're doing right now. But coach, I could shoot 3s. Let me shoot 3s.
It's going to take him longer to even get. It's going to take him longer to figure out to get even a good, follow through and stroke if he's chucking it up in that manner.
Yeah. And it's funny because he then played in the summer for a different coach because I stopped coaching in the summer league. And the coach was working with him because I saw him working with him on a shot. And then he came back for the winter and he was shooting the same exact way. Not quite as deep in his hip, but still like that because he was still hadn't really grown much. He may put 1 or 2 inches on maybe, but he was still very short, very undersized. And it's just, it was bad. And it was funny because the first year, like, he hadn't scored yet. And that was the other thing. Like, he hadn't scored yet all season. So it's the last game of the season. And I forget who we were playing. Oh, I know who we were playing. I remember. It was for the championship. And I was like, okay, he needs to get a shot. He needs to get score points. Like, this kid's got to score. Like, I'm a big believer in every kid should be able to score in a basketball game in the season because it just does something to that kid's ego. Okay. It makes them feel good. Whether they scored all the points, scored 2 points, doesn't matter. And I'm always happy for these kids when they do it. And the kids just kept on feeding him. And finally, it took him like 6 tries from 3-point line, but he finally made one. And then, of course, in true fashion of kids these days, he was so ecstatic. He was so happy. And I was happy. I was like almost crying because I was like, oh my God, this kid finally scored. Like, after all these attempts, after all these games, he finally scored points. Yeah. He does this. He does what is it? The three.
Stop.
It's like, like, God.
You were 1 for 7. No ice the veins, bro. No, you're not.
So I mean, I don't even know I don't know what this means. The 3 fingers to the head. I know it has something to do with this.
It is whatever, something.
Because I've never, like, being on the shorter side myself, and I say shorter side because I'm 5'8", I always get psyched. Like, I've never done any of the, taunting stuff or anything like that. The only time I ever, like, got excited and, like, did a taunt is if I block somebody, because that's a big achievement for somebody my size to block somebody. So, like, every time I've ever blocked somebody, the words that come out of my mouth is "get that shit out of here,"
Natural. No, I never really did either. I think maybe once or twice I think I did. That was more like when we were doing it in gym class. Mm-hmm. We were playing pickup games in gym class. One of the kids was Mr. Spinorama and this, that, the next thing. And he was like doing some crossovers and spinning around and this, that, and the next thing. He drove to the hole, went for a layup, and I swatted that shit. I was like, get the fuck out of my gym. And I was just more pissed off. I was just more pissed off that he was just kind of like showboating. And I'm like, I want to play basketball, bro. I'm not sitting here trying to do this. And I swatted that shit. I was like, this is my fucking gym, bitch. Now, it wasn't a kid I really talked to. He was in 2 of my classes, but I was like, God, you're so annoying right now. And everyone's like standing around, like, as the game's going on, like, all right, this is enough. Like, he's just being a dick. And he wasn't scored any points. He was barely scoring any points. But it's just like, Jesus fucking Christ, could we just fucking play?
So I look at Darth Pat, and I say Darth Pat was probably the showboater of sports. Like, he was probably playing something. He was like taunting kids and being like, "I'm a giant. Listen here, fucker."
No, I never did anything like that because I had coaches who wouldn't tolerate that shit.
This is very true. We did grow up in that era where coaches didn't tolerate that kind of crap.
Yeah, both baseball and basketball. When I played, I had coaches who, basically they saw somebody showboating. The reaction was, "Come here, bench."
Yeah.
So now it's funny. I mean, I don't have a tremendous amount of memories from when I played like basketball and everything. But you talk about blocking shots being fun. The first competitive game I played in basketball, this would have been what I would have been in 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I got put into the game, and I got put in to replace somebody who was playing one of the guards, even though I was one of the taller kids. They still didn't quite know what I could do. So they had me play a matchup against one of the kids that's playing guard for the other team.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I was a little uncomfortable because I had mostly practiced as, playing down on the blocks and everything, playing forward, basically, or center. So, defend the basket, get the rebound. That was my thought. So I'm down there, and now playing on this kid who's a guard, and I've got at least 6 inches on him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's not a fair fight in terms of height. He goes up for a shot, and there was not enough space between the two of us for him to be taking a shot in that instance.
Mm-hmm.
I just stuck my right hand out, and I'm left-handed, so this is actually kind of also interesting. I was taking my right hand out. I just stuck my right hand out like this. He jumps right into it with the ball and came back down with the ball still in his hands.
Travel.
That's awesome.
He was just not in any way a physical matchup for me.
No.
That he could not even force the ball out of his hands, and I didn't even jump. I didn't think I had even exerted that much pressure on him. And like when I went back to the bench, when I came out of the game, and my coach goes to me, "Nice block there." I said, "I didn't even do anything." And my coach just started laughing.
Then I put my hands up. And the funny part is,
all I do is go like this, and he just goes, oh.
And crazy part is that's something we always would tell the kids when they're down in the low. Just don't jump with them. Just stand there, put your arms up. Things can happen, and see, things can happen.
Don't do anything.
Make the offensive players screw up. You don't make the screw up. You don't foul. Let them make the screw up, not you. Kids just don't listen.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They didn't listen 15 years ago, and they don't listen today. So it is what it is.
Yeah. So speaking about basketball, being a Philadelphia fan, which is pretty tough right now, being a Philadelphia fan, because the Sixers should be a much better team than what they are, and they lost to the Hawks in the playoffs, which I don't think too many people were surprised about, except for Sixers fans. But good old Charles Barkley, just to kind of preface this a little bit, good old Charles Barkley was on the Mike Mizzolani show. I think I said that right, Mizzolani show, and he was
Mizzanelli. I don't know how to say it, but whatever.
Something. Either way, he's on 97.5. Excuse me, on 97.5, The Fanatic, which is a sports talk radio show out of Philadelphia. And he had Charles Barkley on, and Charles Barkley, of course, was asked about, Ben Simmons and, what's been going on in Philadelphia. Because Ben Simmons, if anybody doesn't know, he is currently trying to get out of his contract, and Philadelphia wants to split with him too. Because of the fact that they don't want him there anymore, and he doesn't want to be there anymore. I don't think he's wanted to be there since he signed with Philadelphia, in my personal opinion, just seeing how he's progressed, which is pretty much not at all. He got Brett Brown pretty much fired. because Brett Brown would not step up and be a coach essentially for Ben Simmons. And Ben Simmons, since the day he started, has not upped his game. He still can't shoot free throws. He still is scared to take shots when it matters. He cannot shoot from the perimeter, or it shows that he claims he can't shoot from the perimeter because we never see it. And during the playoffs, in all 4 games in all the fourth quarter games of the Hawks series, he did not shoot. Like, he took very minimal shots or didn't shoot. And in the last game where they lost the series, game 7, he didn't take a single shot at all. Like, not even one. Now, this is one of your top players. How in the world is your top player on your team, along with Joel Embiid, not taking shots in the fourth quarter, especially when he's your guard? Which, to me, still boggles my mind how he is a 6'10" guard. But hey, I'm not a coach in the NBA, and we'll just leave it at that. So I have it kind of queued up here, and this is where they were talking about, the series and stuff like that. So this is Charles Barkley on Mike Mizzanelli's show.
25 did not come to play. In fact, did not take a shot in the fourth quarter of 4 straight playoff games.
Which is impossible. That's impossible. But see, that's what bothers me. So y'all give him $200 million. I think.
$200 million.
It's going right these days.
$200 million for a guy who can't shoot from the perimeter. Okay, and continue.
He got 160-70 left on the deal. He makes $40 million a year. And he gets mad when people criticize him for not only will he not shoot, he's afraid of the ball. And he's mad and wants to leave. This is what you guys have created.
And I'm going to just pause it because that's true. Like, anybody who's ever watched the Sixers, he is, when it comes down to the pressure and being responsible and being the guy, he is afraid. He's afraid to be that person. He doesn't want to be the guy that screws up.
He faltered big time in the playoffs. Like, you had an opportunity to make a layup in 2 points for your team into the game. And what do? You pass it off to a guy who's not even ready for the pass. 2, put up a ridiculous shot that wasn't going to go in, and just put yourself in a bad situation.
Yes.
Like, if you have something going on, then you need to work on that in the off season, because that's, for the amount of money you're being paid for a sport that everyone, your organization, your coaching staff, your fans, your teammates are expecting you to play at this level, and then you come to work and you play at this level. That's just uncalled for.
Yeah,
there's really no excuse for that, in my opinion.
No, and Philadelphia, really, the Sixers organization has allowed this to happen. Like, from the owners on down, they've allowed this to happen. So there's nobody to fault but themselves for allowing Ben Simmons to continue to be the player that he is.
Days player, you players and these fans, you don't hold these guys accountable. Wait, so let me get this straight. We liked you enough to give you $200 million. The only thing we ask you is to be a good basketball player, and you're a good basketball player. But we want you to be we're not even asking. We just say shoot the ball.
Shoot the ball.
And he's mad and wants to leave town. Come on, Mike. This is total BS. And if I'm the Sixers, we had our annual Sixers dinner the other night, and I said this to those guys. And we talk about guys who coached and played in the NBA. We do it once a year. Anybody who played for the Sixers, we get together once a year for dinner. It's one of the greatest nights of my.
So it's he continues to go on, just about Ben Simmons, like, upping his game, like, shoot the ball, be able to shoot the ball. That's all the organization's asked you to do since you've come here, is learn how to shoot the ball. And it's crazy that he's still, like, you see him at pickup games. He always posts about being in these pickup games, and you see him shoot from the perimeter or see him shooting a 3, and it's like, I understand the stage is greater. I understand there's a lot more pressure than playing in a pickup game.
Still, though.
But you are a professional player, like a professional professional athlete. You have got to be able to step up to the plate. So I know we like to trash LeBron a lot, but when it comes down to it, LeBron James, you know, he gets talked about as being the GOAT and everything, and we debate on that all the time. We can debate every day about it. But when it comes down to it, I would take, and I'm not even a LeBron fan, but I would take LeBron over Ben Simmons any day, because at least I know with LeBron, I know what I'm going to get. I know I'm going to get all 4 quarters. I'm going to get his heart. Now, he may decide at times to pass up the ball on the final shot of the game. That could be a game winner, but at least I know he's going to be taking shots in the 4th quarter.
For the most part.
You know, with Ben Simmons, you're like, okay, he might drop 20, but he's going to fall apart. He's going to cease to exist in the second half, especially when it comes to the 4th quarter. You know, because, hey, there's fouls and teams are going to start fouling, and I don't want to go to the foul shot. One of the points that Barkley does make, and I just don't know what minute mark it is on the clip, but he talks about Giannis, okay, the Greek freak.
Mm-hmm.
He points out that his free throw percentage is not really any better than Ben Simmons, but he still drives to the hole. He still takes shots because he doesn't care if he misses, if he has 100 attempts at the free throw line. He's going to make some of them. He's going to miss some of them.
Yeah.
It's all about winning. It's about being being able to perform at that high level. You know, that's why the Bucks won that series, won the title, because of the way Giannis plays. He plays with heart. He plays with passion. He plays hard.
He got his other players on the team to elevate their game.
Yeah.
Because Holiday had a great series too. Like defensively, he didn't score a lot of points in that series like he did some of the other ones, but he scored what he needed to, and he played very good defense.
Yeah.
No, that's what they needed from him.
Yeah. So, and Ben Simmons wants to have his trade pushed up. They want him to get rid of him, but the Sixers are doing the right thing. Like, hey, we have control over your contract. Your contract, you cannot break that contract. You can sit out if you want to. I don't know if they have to pay him if he sits out. I don't know how that contract's written up, but they have final say in where he goes, and they're going to trade him to where they want him to be traded based on what they're going to get in return. They don't want to get, as Barkley put it in that clip, he said, they don't want to get 25 cents on the dollar.
No.
Like, we're not trading for a low-grade player. You're a superstar.
I don't think
we want another superstar.
Trouble is in deals like that. You don't. It's not necessarily that you're only getting 25 cents on the dollar, but you're trading a dollar for 4 quarters. You know.
Yeah.
The dollar is more valuable in this analogy, but yeah.
I don't think he's going to get traded till the deadline anyway.
Yeah. They have no reason to just accept like the first or second or even the third or fourth offer that comes along for him if, in their view, the offer is shit. So
yeah.
Because I saw one of the trade offers was for freaking I think it was somebody on the Bulls. I think it was.
Yeah, that wasn't going to happen.
Because I don't think the guy from the Bulls was, and I don't want to say he wasn't good, but he definitely was not like the same caliber of player as Ben Simmons is.
Mm-mm. I think it was Thad Young or something like that.
Yeah, we already had Thaddeus Young. You know, we had him years ago.
You know, but yeah, he'll get traded at the trade deadline, I think. To who, it will be interesting to see. We'll see what happens with that. We will see. But yeah, it's gonna be the Sixers' choice. You know, it's not. They're like, hey, we have a deal in place to send you to, I don't know, the Sacramento Kings. That's where you're going, bro. If you got, if you don't have anything in your contract says it has a like no trade clause to like certain teams or whatever, you'll be a Sacramento King. Have fun with that. So, I mean, you never know. See what happens.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. That's for sure. But that's all I have as far as like any kind of basketball news, because there's pretty much nothing going on with basketball right now. Hopefully, guys are training in the off season to improve their game. But you know, the other thing that's been going on lately has been the Lakers and them trying to stockpile players. As we talked about in the last podcast with their freaking ancient team, their team of elderly gentlemen.
Well, their team's going to get older because the Nets traded DeAndre Jordan for a couple players in a draft pick to Detroit, and Detroit's doing the buyout. And DeAndre already said that he has a contract in place at the whatever the Lakers have left to go sign with the Lakers. Yeah, whatever. So I'm just laughing. That's not going to help your defense whatsoever. Blah 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 blah. News there.
Yeah,
on that aspect.
I think if the Suns can play the way they played last year, the Suns are the team to beat again. Like they're just going to be the team to beat, and
more experience.
They're younger. They're fast. That's a fast team up and down the court. And I'm sorry, as you get older, I don't care what anybody says. You lose steps. Like you just can't keep up with the 22 and 23-year-olds that are in their prime. Like it doesn't happen unless they're slow as hell to begin with. But that's usually not the case, especially in the NBA. They've got very few slow guys anymore.
So, speaking of sports, that was a very exciting, maybe not so much for you guys over there, but it was a very exciting and fun game to watch. The Penn State Nittany Lions against good old Wisconsin shithole Badgers. I don't like Wisconsin. Sorry.
It was an interesting game. It was very dismaying if you were a Penn State fan, because one of the issues that I've had throughout Franklin's tenure is that I feel like he's a little slow on adjusting.
Mm-hmm.
And that was so apparent during yesterday's game.
Yeah.
Because if you watch the first half and then you watch the second half, the difference in their offense, it was completely night and day. They couldn't do a goddamn thing on offense in the first half. Second half, first drive, they come out there throwing to the outside. All of a sudden, they remember they have Jahan Dotson from Nazareth High School. And, they put a touchdown on the board, pretty quickly there and everything. So it was like, holy shit, look at that. Why couldn't you adjust like that during the first half?
Yeah, like why couldn't they do that in the second quarter? Like the only touchdown in the first half was a pick six by Penn State. Like neither offense was able to do anything. I was like, wow, are the offenses this bad or the defense is just that good?
Yeah, I think it was more that there were good defensive plays made, but I really do think that game was more about inept offenses. And the announcers were making a big deal out of Wisconsin's quarterback, saying about how like this is going to be the guy that's going to finally take Wisconsin to the next step. I'm like,
I don't know about that.
I didn't see anything yesterday that would make me think that that's going to happen. I mean, I'm not saying he can or he's capable, but he didn't show yesterday because he missed plays. They played a very sloppy game. They had bad exchanges that led to fumbles and shit. So, it was one of those games, and it's not surprising because it's first game of the season and shit like that. But it was very annoying to watch because of bad fundamentals, like kicking miscues. Missing what was like a 24-yard field goal and then missing an extra point. Which is the only reason why the game was really kind of still in doubt. And at the same time, Penn State blocked a field goal. So the refs were bad. Wisconsin got away with at least 10 holding penalties that were
legit holding.
There was
you can always say like, oh, there's holding on every play in football. I'm like, yeah, these were like blatantly obvious. Like, how the hell did you not see that kind of hold?
There was a lot of that in a lot of games I watched yesterday too. I was like, "Oh God, holy shit! These guys need to get."
When the guy's jersey's pulling away from his body, that's a hold.
Yeah, that's kind of a tell. But it really makes me. I can't remember if they're doing this again over the next few seasons, but it does make me think that maybe they should rethink this whole, let's start the season with a conference game thing, because
I don't know.
Those conference games are very, very important. especially when they could come down to being, like, say, like the difference between, qualifying for your conference playoff game or not. So yeah, you're going to have week one jitters or just week one sloppiness. So maybe it's not such a great idea to actually start the season with a conference game, but we'll see. I don't know. I don't know what their schedules are the next few years. I haven't looked.
I mean, the thing too, I think more or less with that is, you have two teams, same conference, both ranked in the top 25. It's going to be a good game. Let's put it on national television week one. It's a game that's going to mean something. It was a fun game to watch. It definitely was.
How did Florida State fend on the
they
first
are currently
week?
They're currently losing by 10. They're on right now against Notre Dame.
So this is their first game of the season?
Yeah. It's been kind of a back and forth. Oh, Pat's holding his eyes. Did something happen that I'm behind on? No, I don't think so. Yeah, it's 38-28 Notre Dame.
Florida State just scored a cut at the 38-28 after there was some back and forth. But it looks like Florida State was making a bunch of turnovers and Notre Dame was capitalizing off them and everything. But this game, there's been a lot of sloppiness. There's been a lot of breakdowns. Yeah. There's been a lot of, Florida State looked terrible on offense. Then they broke an 89-yard touchdown run. And then it seemed like for about a quarter there, Notre Dame couldn't do anything right. But then they started getting turnovers and big plays. And Cones actually played better than I thought he was going to, which is a good sign because he was one of the biggest question marks for this team coming in. I mean, I don't think Notre Dame was a CFP contender this year. But I also think they have too much talent to be a pushover. So, I was just shaking my head because I'm updating the AEW results here. Well, we had a surprise, if you want to call it that. I think a lot of us thought this was going to happen, but Ruby Riott, now known as Ruby Soho, was the surprise entrant in the Women's Casino Battle Royal, which she won, which automatically makes her the number one contender to the AEW Women's title. And it's like, oh my God, there could actually be a worthwhile women's program now in AEW because Ruby Riott was pretty firmly in the middle of the pecking order when she was in WWE in terms of talent. I'm not saying it to be dismissive, just she wasn't as good as the top 4 or 5 women there. But goddamn, she pretty much raises the quality of AEW's women's division by got to be at least 25% just by herself. So. So they might actually have something decent there. But now I was shaking my head because Chris Jericho,
he won,
tapped out MJF.
Yep.
Interesting.
So he was able to beat him one of the last 5 matches he had.
Right. But and again, I hate to always beat this drum. But I was listening to the Cornette's weekly podcast this morning, and they were discussing, like what had happened on Dynamite on Wednesday night and kind of previewing what they thought would or could happen tonight. And they were talking about this feud because they've both been very unhappy with the way this whole feud has gone because they basically feel like MJF has taken too many hits. Mm-hmm. And that he shouldn't be taking these hits at a 50-year-old out of shape Chris Jericho. And they said, it was like MJF's beaten him 3 times and everything. But they also hate how the whole thing's been booked. How they basically started the feud at the end, they said, with the fucking War Games match or whatever they want to call it.
Yeah.
Which is true. And the fact that both of their groups have kind of disappeared to the point where it's like, do they even still have groups? And that's true too. And that's one of my general complaints against AEW. It's always hard to see where things start and stop. Because
for a good portion of things, yeah.
Because of the way that it seems like the roster keeps fluctuating, where they add guys and this and that. There seems to be some feuds that just kind of go in and out. The other thing, but anyway. So Jericho finally beats him and everything. But then how is this going to be remembered? This is going to be remembered that Jericho won the feud. Jericho's the one who stuck MJF's head in the toilet, right? Didn't that happen everything? So
let me ask. Yeah. So
I don't really see how you raise MJF status throughout this whole debacle, and it's like, Chris, you're 50 years old, you're fat. Come on, just
he won the battle, but he didn't win the war. Honestly, and
I
I don't know.
To me, it feels like he maybe did win the war though, because they can't have him keep going after this. So,
yeah, I'm not sure what.
So I'm gonna ask, since I haven't seen any of this, so this is all new to me. So the what was it, like a best of 5 type deal, or
no? They weren't even really doing that. They were just kind of going with the flow and just doing stuff. And then they did something where Jericho, had to go through like this gauntlet of different types of matches, like every
all
week
against MJF, right?
MJF, like against different people.
Oh, okay.
It was different people for him to like wrestle MJF, again, or whatever the case may be. So Jericho kind of did that, and each week it was like an old school version of Chris Jericho and some of the people he was wrestling. Like he wrestled Juventud Guerrero, for God's sakes. So, it was just that kind of aspect of it. I just feel like the feud went on a little longer.
Yeah, it definitely went on too long. Yeah.
It went on longer than it should have. This should have been done several months ago, honestly. But they dragged it out for whatever reason. I'm not really, it is what it is, but that's what they did. So
interesting.
Right now it's the next match is Punk versus Darby.
Okay.
Punk is rocking. He's not wearing his short tights. He's got long tights on.
Interesting.
Pretty cool, actually, too.
I've never seen that.
Pretty cool too. Cool look for him. But yeah, I mean, that's one aspect of AEW where they're still finding their way in regards to it. I listened to Busted Open on Sirius XM with Dave LaGreca and Bully Ray, and sometimes Tommy Dreamer's on there, and Mark Henry would be on there from time to time. He's doing the AEW thing now, and Bully Ray says it's overall a good product that they've put out in AEW since they started, but they're just going through, certain feel out processes and certain things kind of in the aspect of seeing who can do what, because you still have to remember that 70% of this talent has never wrestled on national television in this type of atmosphere before.
Right, and I get that point, but they've wrestled in a ring before. They've wrestled in front of crowds, so they got to understand, like how to, because the elements are the same except for the camera, like knowing where the cameras
TV
are to make sure that they're on in the right position in the ring for the camera to catch the best angle. And what I always heard was the hard camera. Like that, you got to know where the hard camera is.
You do, but still the hard camera's responsibility to make sure they do their job.
Right.
It just from what Bully Ray says is TV wrestling is totally different than doing it in a live crowd with no cameras or just cameras filming it. And he said it's totally different from wrestling on, I don't know, like Access TV compared to wrestling on TNT. There's a different way that it gets done as far as being produced and all that stuff. And a lot of times he said that these young kids just they go out there and they do try to do too much. They don't let it flow.
They got to get their shit in.
Yeah, they're trying to do too much, get too much of their shit in when they really don't have to. And that's where Bully Ray said that, was Tommy Dreamer was on the one time, and he was like, yeah, some of the kids still want to do too much. He's like, you don't need to. He goes, you'll have your time to do certain things you need to do. I said, but it's not something you need to do every single match. That's not how you need to go about it, especially
your match times are going to be limited.
Television.
That I think that's one of the big differences between televised, like it is, like they're on now, compared to like wrestling in the indie scene, is they probably have a limit on how long they're allowed to go for a match.
Oh yeah, so and they don't have that limit on the indie scene per se. So it's not,
you do have
especially something that's not on TV.
Yeah, you got to think about your time limit. You got to think about, okay, what's realistic in this match as we're trying to tell the story of why we're feuding, why we're fighting in the first place. Like, if you move too fast, you'll lose the crowd on TV and the crowd in the arena.
Yeah.
If you're moving too fast and trying to do too much shit, it just looks sloppy, and you lose the whole storytelling aspect.
And that's where you see the botches happening with certain people and certain female wrestlers and some of the guys too, making the botches and things of that nature. I mean, it is what it is. Overall, do I like AEW? I like watching it. Absolutely. There's a lot of guys on AEW that have wrestled on the indie scene that I've, TNA or, MLW, ROH, New Japan, whatever it may be, that I've watched for several years now. And they're good talent. It's just, they need to make a change for themselves to up their game, per se, being in a bigger promotion and being on national television now. Yeah. So I'm excited to see what some of them will do. Some have stepped it up, some not so much.
Yeah, and I think they also just need to understand, like, look, you don't need to do your full arsenal every time you go out and wrestle.
Yeah.
It's got to make some sense. So, yeah. And the problem is, though, is that you keep on hearing like, oh, well, I can do whatever I want to do here. It's like, yeah, but is that
not really, no.
Is that good necessarily? Like is that really going to help?
There's one thing about doing whatever Oh, I lost his audio. Did you lose his audio? I lost both your guys' audio. Oop, my stuff's all messed up.
Tommy Dreamer still said at the end of the day, Tony Khan makes the final call in regards to what does happen and what does not happen, which is good.
And that's fine. There does need to be somebody who can just put his foot down at the end of the day and be like, all right, this is the way we're doing it. My problem is that I don't know that he's the right guy to do that, because I think he's a little bit too much of a mark himself.
Time will tell.
So that I'm afraid that he's never going to be somebody who's really going to be able to be like, Kenny, Matt, Nick, whoever, no, we need to do it this way. But hey, the Bucks, they just dropped the tag belts tonight, which I didn't think was going to happen. So maybe they are coming to somewhat of a realization. So, again, like you said, we'll see. The biggest thing I think for them is going to be, because we've discussed about how they have a lot of momentum. There's a lot of bad buzz with WWE right now, whether it's the NXT stuff or really anything that's going on right now.
Very true.
I mean, what I've heard they're going to start doing with NXT, you're talking about like going in like new directions and stuff like that. It's like, well, it certainly sounds like NXT is headed in a new direction, and I don't really see how it's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm concerned because like Samoa Joe's like the placeholder from going from the old version to the new version, and like I'm worried about what's going to happen with him.
He's not long for it at this point. I don't really think anybody who's there right now is my concern is not so much what they apparently intend I can talk to do with NXT right now. If they start treating it like a true developmental territory again, I think that's probably for the best thing than try to pretend it was some kind of co-equal brand, because I think when you try to pretend them as some kind of co-equal brand, you get people who start thinking that it means more than it did. AJ. But
it was good wrestling, though.
I'm not saying it wasn't good wrestling, but I'm just saying, like, did what happened there matter? Did the fact that you did or didn't win this NXT title matter? My opinion to that has been no, because we had that whole knockdown.
I think it mattered more to the fans that were diehard NXT fans than it does in the whole overall picture.
Certainly it did. But when I hear who's going to be like running NXT now, that's my concern because, I like Bruce Pritchard. I like listening to his podcast, but, Pritchard's a Vince yes man. He really is. He will never push back against what Vince wants because he feels like his job is to do what Vince wants. So he will do what Vince wants without too much protest. And he won't try to fight a battle if he knows it's not going to be worth fighting the battle. So it's like, there could be somebody who could be like, rewind the clock, say 20 years, and say NXT was around then the way it is now. And they had this small Southern guy who could do these phenomenal moves, but, it was like 5'9" and 200 pounds if he's lucky, soaking wet, named AJ Styles. Who was going to go to bat for him? Vince would take a look at him and go, God, he's so small. And Bruce would just be, and Pritchard would just be like, yeah, you're exactly right, Vince. He is small. But, he can do stuff, but he's small. Yeah, but he can really do some incredible stuff. He's small. Well, I guess, you're right, Vince. He is small, so I guess we won't bother with him.
Yeah, I heard those reports that they were kind of taking over NXT, but then it looks like Vince and Khan have refuted that, saying no, that's not what's going to happen. But then if that's not going,
but you especially can't believe anything that Nick Khan says.
So it's kind of okay. So what's the story? Who's doing what? Who's running NXT now? Who truly is running NXT?
Yeah, and well, that was the thing. This was something they were talking in Cornette's podcast again. That Vince's inner circle right now seems to be him, Pritchard, Johnny Ace is back, and Nick Khan, which sounds like the four corners of hell.
It's the Yes Vince Club. Yes Vince. Yes Vince. Yes Vince.
Yeah, Kiss My Ass Club. It's the Yes Man Club.
And that's the kind of funny thing. I can't believe that Pritchard and Johnny Ace are having to work this closely together, considering some of the ways that Pritchard's talked down about Johnny Ace in the past. He's like, Johnny Ace is one of the many impressions that he would do in his podcast where he'd be like, "Oh, hey Vince, oh, you're looking great today. Have your arms gotten bigger? Oh, they're so fast. They're so vascular. Oh, yeah." So anyway, so they were pointing it's like those four guys against, supposedly they're going to leave Triple H and Michaels in charge. And so Cornette said, "Ooh, that's an interesting match." He's like, Vince, Pritchard, Johnny Ace, and Nick Khan against Triple H and Shawn and whoever they can get. He's like, "Who do you think is going to win that match, Brian?" And then Brian goes, "I think Shawn will turn on Triple H."
He probably would.
And I was driving when I was listening to that this morning when he said that, and I almost swerved off the damn road. I started laughing so hard.
It's just
but it's just it's looking like it's going to be some kind of a clusterfuck. So,
see, here's the thing: we know Vince ultimately, as the head of any company, one person has to make the final decision. Okay, and that's for as long as Vince has been in charge, it's been Vince, and it makes sense. But you got to have people there that are around you that challenge your thought and see things differently to make you understand that maybe my thought is not really the best thought. Maybe there are other things that we can do. When you surround yourself with people that just say yes, 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 and never challenge you, there is going to be a huge problem with what your product, and that's for any company. Any company. You can't just have people that just say yes, 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 that sounds great, and then you just go out with what the craziest idea that you've had. It just doesn't work well. It just, I can't say any better than it just doesn't work. Things just don't go good for those kind of companies. They end up, those kind of companies that do that, and regardless of any field or whatever product that they're putting out, those are the kind of companies that eventually, not sure how many years, because I don't know the statistics on that, but eventually they fall and they fold because there was never anybody there to contradict the head honchos' ideas and thoughts and what they wanted to accomplish.
And think about it. Once upon a time, not all that long ago, though in a lot of ways, yes, it was that long ago now, WWF was getting its ass kicked.
Mm-hmm.
And Vince supposedly admitted, hey, I might be behind the times here now. Maybe we got to start looking at like some different ways of how to do this and everything. And so say what you want about Vince Russo, but I think what his
shit.
Yeah, he is.
True.
But I think at least that his lasting contribution is going to be that he did show Vince that there was a different thing out there.
Yeah.
That people were embracing, and he convinced Vince to go with it, and that's ultimately what helped, turn the tide and everything. Now you can say, of course, a lot of that ended up ruining the business, but WWF might have folded if Vince McMahon hadn't chosen to embrace some of those ideas. So.
Right. And they needed to, because WCW was already kind of going down that road to begin with. They were getting a little racier. They were getting a little raunchier. A little bit more brutality in their product. If you didn't match that, you were going to lose any fans that you had that were looking for that. So you had to up your game. And yes, it did get maybe a little too racy, maybe a little too gratuitous, inappropriate. But it worked in that time. That time frame of the 90s, it worked. Because you have to look at what else was on TV. You had Jerry Springer, which was freaking ridiculously over the top. You're talking about a talk show where people were fighting and getting their clothes ripped off by the other people on the talk show. Yeah.
Quote unquote talk show.
Yeah. You had things like that on TV. So it wasn't unfit for the times. It actually fit perfectly into that time frame in that decade of the 90s. Mm-hmm. So does it fit now? Of course not. You can't do the things that you used to do back in the 90s on TV. People would just have a knip shit over that kind of stuff. The fact that WWE can get away with some of the stuff that they get away with now of essentially being, I hate to say it, but quote unquote racist in some of the gimmicks that they have right now, or as we like to call them, drimmicks now.
That's our new word, drimmick.
Because they're dreadfully awful.
It's a drimmick.
It's
but it's such good shit.
is kind of crazy, but they're able to get away with it. Maybe they do get some pushback from people who are like, that is really a racist gimmick. Like, what are you doing? Like. How can you have this guy just because he's black dress up and say he's African now?
And then gets the accent out of nowhere. Yeah. Like this is like a reverse Kofi Kingston where he was talking like he's Jamaican, then all of a sudden loses a Jamaican accent a month later. Like, come on,
that
man.
probably was one of the funniest things when Triple H is like, "Aren't you Jamaican?"
Not that couldn't. So the Darby Allin CM Punk match just ended.
Oh, okay.
CM Punk did win.
You would kind of have to.
Yeah, but it was a good match.
Good.
Darby Allin does what Darby Allin does, and CM Punk wrestled really good. So if you want to chant, you still got it, CM Punk. That was definitely a valid chant if that happened during this match because he did good. And now Sting has just come down to the ring.
Oh no!
He shook Punk's hand, and they're just trying to get Darby Allin to get up, which he's doing by himself because he's just fucking insane in general. It was a good match.
I worried about that boy.
Yeah, he puts his body in the line way too much.
Mm-hmm.
He does a lot of crazy shit.
We threw that meme up last week with
I think too often
with Sting in it with AEW fans and how AEW fans look at WWE fans and bringing back old geriatric wrestlers. It's just funny that they still have Sting there. Now I know he's not necessarily wrestling; he's just kind of there. But it's kind of funny that he's still around, hanging around for whatever purpose, I guess.
Well, he he didn't go out in WWE the way he wanted to, all because of the injury. And even when he was like semi-cleared to really, he really wasn't cleared to wrestle, but he was cleared to do like cinematic shit, you know. So he could have done a cinematic match like AJ did with The Undertaker. You know, he could have done that with The Undertaker. But at the end of the day, it didn't happen. So he's getting his chance with AEW. He's been cleared to wrestle, you know, but he's doing a lot with the boys in the back and the girls in the back and whatnot. So from what I read in the interviews and things of that nature, like he's helping out in the back. You know, he's just got this thing with Darby Allin, kind of like his mentor, however you want to like look at it. But, you know, and I don't think he's taking a spot from anybody because he's with Darby Allin, and Darby Allin is doing his thing. So he's just kind of there for the ride, per se.
And I think that's good. I think it's important for any company. And they don't have to be a writer, they don't have to be a booker, they don't have to be anything, but just like a talent relation kind of person where they are there to help the younger talent understand better what it means to be on television, how to work the ring, how to tell the story, you know, what's going to work, you know, when they're going through like their match, like, hey, let's, you know, I think we should do this or this. Kind of be that voice of reason. Does that make sense here? Is it going to work? You know, does it help tell the story? Is it a necessary spot? Like, I think that's important for the older generation wrestlers to do. And I think that's a perfect place for him to be. You know, if they want to throw him on TV every once in a while as like, he just comes down in the ring and does, you know, whatever he does, you know, for the ring, fine. So be it. You know, there's nostalgia in that. As long as he's not going out there and trying to have like matches on a weekly basis
all the time,
and stuff, because that there's no need for that. He's had his time in the ring, like his time has passed, just like Jericho at this point in time. I'm sorry, Jericho's had his time in the ring. You know, I know he doesn't want to hang it up because he's one of those guys like, I can still go, I'm still good, like I'm this, I do DDP yoga, you know, I'm good, man.
I mean, if he's gonna do tag matches with his group, fine, but you know, championships and things of that nature don't
matches that mean something, you know.
Let that be on the rest of the guys now.
Yeah, he needs it becomes down to a point where you got to realize that yes, you might still be able to go, but your relevancy in the wrestling world is time has come and gone, and it's time to let these younger guys have the spotlight. And I'm not saying that Chris Jericho's trying to steal the spotlight from these guys, but the fact that well, I know you are, but the fact that he's winning a match now, was that match for a title? Was that a title match?
No.
Okay, so at least it wasn't a title match.
That's just a feud between those two and all that shit. That's really all that was.
And Jericho's career was on the line.
Oh, yeah. Well, it would have been okay for his career to be on the line and actually be over. You know, and that comes from being a Chris Jericho fan. Like, I enjoyed Chris Jericho every year, every time that he was in WWE, and I went back and watched WCW stuff. I enjoy Chris Jericho. He is his ability to talk on the mic, his ability in the ring. I am a Chris Jericho fan, but there becomes a time and point in every wrestler's career where they've got to maybe come back for the nostalgia match if they can still go, and that's really it. Or make an appearance and do like The Rock does, like give somebody a rock bottom, talk some smack to them, and that's it. Like, that's all they do. Like, they get the crowd hype for that, whatever, you know, against the bad guy. That's a good place for them. Like, I don't expect The Rock to come back and have a match. I actually don't want to see that, you know, because The Rock had his time. I don't need to see him. Like, it was cool to see him and Cena go at it. But I almost, like, as much as I enjoyed that, I didn't really need that match. I didn't need that feud to happen.
No. So, that was a money grab, to be honest.
Yeah, it was, that really absolutely was. Like I said, it was nice to see, but I didn't need it.
Unfortunately, that was a money grab that, now, if you want to talk about taking away from others, that was a money grab that took away from several other wrestlers, to be honest.
Yeah, I won't disagree with that.
Yeah. So that's something that probably shouldn't have happened, but it did. But it is what it is.
And WWE is notorious for that. They're notorious for bringing back old wrestlers. The only reason Stone Cold has not done it is because Stone Cold has come to the realization because he's talked about it. He's talked about, they've reached out to him numerous times to come back and do stuff. And he realizes that his wrestling career, when he finally walked away and rode off into the sunset, as he likes to say, he knew his career was over. Even though it was something very hard to adjust to and come to terms with, he knew his wrestling career was over. He was not coming back to wrestle again. When he comes back, he knows he's coming back to do a bit spot and not to do a program or anything like that, because he cannot do that anymore. And it's not like he's in bad shape. If you see pictures of him now, he's still in good shape. It's not like he's out of shape.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but
he's so strong.
He's got the neck issues. That's
right.
The main thing. So
yeah. So and speaking of guys that don't need to keep coming back, Goldberg's another one.
Oh my
whether
God.
you love Goldberg or hate him,
it's just,
why do they keep bringing him back? Like, it makes no sense. You are legitimately at this point taking a spot on the card from somebody who should really be wrestling.
The thing about that is, though, and for one thing, you're talking about he shouldn't be wrestling anymore. I'm sorry. I watched a masterpiece a few weeks ago there when he wrestled Bobby Lashley at SummerSlam. So I don't know. I don't know what your issue there.
A masterpiece, you say?
No, a masterpiece.
Oh, a masterpiece.
It was a masterpiece on the mat. Your fundamental point is dead on. At the same time,
I can't wait to hear this.
Whose spot is he taking?
Yes, I get your art, and I get your point.
Right now, nobody's,
because they don't know who they don't. And this is the biggest problem with WWE. They don't know who to put where. They've got so much talent that they don't know what to do with probably half of them, if not more. They don't know what to do with that talent.
They won't push consistently, at least, guys like Cesaro or Nakamura or Bobby Roode or Ziggler or
and they're good in a lot of aspects.
Johnny Morrison, drip Johnny.
Yeah, I guess you could throw Morrison in there. They've messed up McIntyre. They fired Strowman and Wyatt. They've got Orton in a tag team right now. So they've got Styles in a tag team right now. So
speaking of Mr. Bro, man, he sits there and calls out. He's getting himself into shit again because he just said he can beat Roman Reigns in a real fight. Like he's running his mouth and shit. Yeah, like dude, shut up.
Somebody needs to pull him aside and say, "Hey, do you remember Enzo Amore?"
Really?
And he probably would be like, "Yeah, who is that, man?" And they would just be like, "Exactly."
So speaking of Roman Reigns, you mentioned Roman Reigns. I was watching a movie yesterday on Netflix called The Wrong Missy. And Roman Reigns makes a guest appearance in that in the very beginning.
Oh, does he really?
Yes, he does. It's really, really funny too. Like he played the perfect role. He played the I don't want to say Neanderthalish, but he was the big brooding boyfriend or husband in this case of David Spade's who he thought was his date. So it fit his physical and personal persona like that he portrays on WWE. So it worked out really well for him.
So, Pat, we got a game here, bro.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I know. Notre Dame's pissed away chances to ice this.
It's 38. It's 38-35 Notre Dame. 1:40 left, and Florida State has switched quarterbacks.
Oh.
And they are at the 25-yard line of Notre Dame.
They're switch hitting.
You're somewhat ahead of me. Then I'm watching it on the Watch ESPN app here. So, they only just ran the first down play, which got them to the 25-yard line. So,
yes.
Uh-oh.
So it's a game. Here. We'll see how this goes. At least it's not a blowout.
Ooh, that was a blowout.
I just hope I don't keep sneezing because usually when I sneeze one time, it's like 20 more times. So I was just unexpected. So I might have to keep my hand on the little mute button over here just in case, and you'll be seeing me going all both sides, sneezing all over the place.
I have a coworker who, when she sneezes 3 times in a row. So when I hear her sneeze the first time, I wait for the second 2 before I go, that's you.
I just tell people at work, I said, wait till you hear me stop and I don't sneeze for about a good minute, then you know I'm good. Because you'll hear like anywhere from 10 to 20 sneezes. I don't know what it is. It's always been like that for me.
When my wife sneezes, it's really funny because it's like, it literally sounds like a person saying achoo, like really loud. It's like achoo. I'm like, geez, are you okay over there?
Uh-oh. So they stopped them. Now Florida State's going for a field goal.
Yeah, I love my wife, but she is a loud sneezer.
I have always said that my mother gives a new definition to the term violent sneeze. Like, violent does not begin to describe it. There was one time where many years ago where she had a cold.
That was faked us out on that one.
No, she had a cold. That was really terrible. So she was like sneezing a lot and everything.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, everyone.
She was watching, I think it was Apollo 13. I made the field goal. And she was watching it with like the stereo speakers on, and it got to it must have been the part where like the spaceship exploded, and everything. So it was like really loud with the stereo on, and my older sister, smart ass that she is in like the other room, and she shouts from the other room, "Hey Mom, we know you're sick, but god damn."
Oh man, so I have to I'm gonna tell this slightly embarrassing story about my wife here. So she loves a corn on the cob, and so she's eating corn on the cob at dinner time, and all of a sudden she had to sneeze.
Oh no.
Yeah.
We know what came after that.
Yep. Corn all over her arm. And some on the floor. And
Yes.
I felt so bad for her. I was like, oh man, that really sucks.
That does suck. Actually, I've done that before. That does suck. That does.
And people always wonder when I sneeze if I'm coughing or sneezing, because I sneeze with my mouth like wide open, so I'm like it kind of sounds like a sneeze cough at the same time. It's kind of weird, but
so I know Pat saw this, but I went to see the new Marvel movie today.
Ooh.
With the kid. So me and the son went to see it today, and there's 2 post-credit scenes.
Oh, nice.
Which,
okay, one's a mid-credit scene, and then the other one's the post-credit scene.
Oh, shut up!
Motherfucking Mr. Technical over here with after. Let me just say they were after credit scenes after the fucking movie was over.
How about this? They were the post-movie scene.
If I could slap him, I would.
Alex, I'll let that go for right now. I'll let that go. Overall, though, it was a good movie. It was a good movie.
Mercedes-Benz. She got a lot of pretty boys. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
It was a good movie. It was fun to watch. And the scenes at the end of the movie are very informative.
Oh, good.
They are and they aren't.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Without really trying to spoil anything here. There's
it's informative in certain aspects where you kind of see where they're going, but you don't know the true nature of it.
Right.
For both of them, pretty much.
The best way I can say it again without really spoiling it is to say, almost kind of think back to the post-credit scene from the first Iron Man, where, it immediately just opens up this whole other universe and this like whole other like realm of possibilities of what could happen next. But you don't know exactly what. You have a general idea, but again, you don't know exactly what's going to happen next. That's what I felt with the main post-credit scene from Shang-Chi. Again, I don't want to spoil it, but there's a discussion between characters who were seen in the movie, plus, and they're just talking about something, and it's like, well, it could lead to this, or it could lead to this, or it could lead to this, or there's a couple of different ways where they could be going. And now, of course, you're starting to wonder, well, how is this going to tie into the ones that are coming next? Like, could this tie into Eternals in some way? It's like, well, I guess maybe it could be, though. I just don't know exactly what's going to be happening in Eternals. Just want to have a rough idea. Is it going to tie into something from, with Doctor Strange, and it could, and I don't know if there would be really any tie-in from this to Spider-Man, because I feel like Spider-Man's still kind of, going to finish its own plot line in a way, while at the same time really opening up the multiverse concept and everything. So, oh, you stupid bastard!
I missed it.
Guy for Notre Dame just dropped a pass, which would have at least gotten them into what could be called field goal range. Though it still would have been a long field goal. So, but anyway, it's opening. It really opened up a new phase for the MCU, because I think the big thing was like, Black Widow didn't really advance the storyline of the MCU really, because it wasn't meant to be. Because it was looking back, and everything.
Yeah.
This one is definitely, kind of advancing. Like, okay, so here's what's next for the MCU, and like, because there's a bunch of different possibilities for what that could be. That's really what makes it intriguing, and that's kind of what was going to hook you for, going forward. Especially because we're entering an era where, you're not going to see Iron Man. I know they are doing another Captain America, and Chris Evans will be back, but I don't really feel that's going to be more than a one-off, and you feel like Thor's story is going to be ending at some point soon too. So this is really just going to be kind of like turning it over to like the next, basically.
Well, yeah, because aren't they? I want to feel like they are going to be doing like the new Avengers, but I don't know if that's in the mix.
They probably will.
Because I don't go onto the website to look at all like the planned like phase 4, phase 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 stuff.
I think they're going to do some variation of that, yes.
Right, because at some point in time in the MCU, there becomes the new Avengers, where they hand it over from Iron Man and those guys to the next group of superheroes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's see.
I think for them, though, I think it's like, when you do that, at what point do you fit in the X-Men?
Yeah. Because you recast, becomes an Avenger.
Like, you recast Wolverine. Do you finally put in as an Avenger? And the other thing too is Deadpool's part of the MCU now, and Deadpool 3 is officially on its way to being made. So, and they're keeping it R-rated. They're not gonna like change anything just because it's under Disney now. Disney's like, let Deadpool be Deadpool. So that's going to keep going.
Put a PG-13, it wouldn't make sense for that character, because it's never been that kind of character. You can't dumb down that character.
So it's kind of like, what do they do with Deadpool 3, considering the fact that, hey, now he is in the MCU and he's been part of X-Men and variations, and he's had X-Men in his show, in his last 2 movies. So,
which is funny because he doesn't call them the X-Men. He's like, so what kind of group are you? You like I forget what he says, but it's really funny. Like he alludes to X-Men.
It's like, do you officially introduce the X-Men in Deadpool, like, since it's already kind of been there, or do you do a different variation of it somewhere else? I mean, I don't know. There's always things too where these past couple movies that were like, oh my God, like this is a hint, or the Disney Plus shows, this is a hint of the X-Men because the X-Men went here and did X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 blah. So, it's just an interesting fact of where they're going to do that, because right now they're talking about the Fantastic Four, and they're probably not going to be introduced until Phase 5 starts. So that's
I hope they do. I hope Disney's
road.
able to do Fantastic Four some justice, because the 3 movies we've seen for the Fantastic Four have not been very good. They've been okay, in my opinion.
You have a lot of potential with Silver Surfer, in my opinion, to be used properly in the MCU. I've always been a Silver Surfer fan, so
yeah, because in the one that it's been a long time since I've seen the Silver Surfer, Rise of the Silver Surfer, Fantastic Four movie. Wasn't he like controlled by Galactus or something like that? Like in that film, I can't remember.
No, he was he was controlled by this big cloud.
He's making fun of it, Jamie.
I'm making fun of the way that they depicted Galactus.
Galactus.
In that movie. And again, I'm not a Marvel nerd. I mean, shit, I'm not even really that much of a DC nerd. I don't actually really read the comics. I mean, I kind of follow them, but I don't really. I'm not like my good friend Chris Deppy, where I'm out buying 6 issues a week. If he still does that, I don't know. To keep up.
Yes,
with
he does. I do from time to time as well.
Again, I like I've always been more of a DC person than a Marvel person, but that's also come from really the initial Superman and Batman movies from the 80s and 90s, but also from the animated series, which I thought were always better than Marvel's animated series.
Yes,
and the animated movies that they've been doing for the last 10 years or so now and everything. So I don't get that attached to certain storylines, this, that, and the other thing. But I still know who the fundamental, most important characters are. So I know who Galactus is, and I know what Galactus always looked like. And then the fact that they decide that they just make him be this big cloud thing.
Yeah. If I try to remember,
it was terrible.
I'm trying to picture Galactus, and I'm pretty sure I have the right character in mind as I picture. Galactus had this purple and blue helmet that had these things that came up and Okay, yeah, I'm thinking of the right villain. Okay, so yeah, it's I feel like that was going to. I feel like that is the character that we're gonna try and introduce in as the main villain coming up in the MCU, but I don't know. There was hints of that might be the next mega villain, so to say, in the MCU. But
yeah, it's gonna be interesting because you have the Loki show that brings Kang and the variations of
Kang and Conqueror.
So how is that going to how is that going to play into the actual movies?
Which I thought was a very interesting way to introduce Kang the Destroyer, or Kang the Conqueror, it's been both things at times.
Everything I've been reading has implied that he's the next. I don't want to say Thanos because that's a little unfair in a couple of ways, but he's the next big bad.
Yeah. Which I would be fine with, to be honest.
Well, yeah, because it's. I mean, Kang is almost like the ultimate villain for the MCU because he's travels time, he's able to freeze time, he's he's all knowing, as we learned from Loki. I mean, I knew that before, but you kind of get to see that in a show. You get to see that for those who never read comics or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what they do. They seem like they're this phase 2. They're going in a different direction about different direction by having Dreyfus play her character and recruiting a vigilante, the vigilante teams that you kind of see in the comics. So you're seeing another side of the vigilante part of Marvel's universe that I believe they're gonna start doing. Plus, all the magic and shit. So that's good. We're getting more depth in phase 4, I believe, than we have in the previous 3.
So I gotta ask you, because I don't know who that character turns into. So from the Falcon and Winter Soldier, the guy that ends up being Captain America to carry on the Stars and Stripes, he turns into who? Captain something, right? or Justice Man.
Yeah.
Justice Man. I don't think that was his name.
No. Fuck. I'm having a brain fart of what his name is. But yes, he turns into that. He's more of like a vigilante. He's like an anti-hero, like Marvel's anti-hero word they like to use. Is pretty much kind of what he is.
I want to say when I first saw him and they introduced him as the new Captain America, one, I was like, well, this is ridiculous because like there is no other Captain America except for like, the Falcon and, the female Captain America who's like what 2099 Captain America and like different things that came into the MCU. But I don't know. I had a hard time seeing that particular character, the guy that they cast in that, 8 episodes, as like a believable character. I don't know. I just something rubbed me wrong about that particular character, like the person that was acting that character.
You dare question? Actually, let me rephrase this now. This is what I wanted to say before you went off on that one. So wait a minute, you're saying that you couldn't believe that Ego's son was Captain America?
Who?
Ego, the Living Planet.
Oh.
the guy who played the character you're talking about from Falcon and Winter Soldier, he's Kurt Russell's son.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
And Kurt Russell had played Ego, the Living Planet, and Guardians too. So yeah, that's where I was going with that.
Gotcha. Yeah, see, I didn't know it was Kurt Russell's son, so I couldn't put those pieces together.
Yeah, I didn't really know either until like I read something, because there's like I didn't really know that he was like in acting and stuff like that. So
yeah, it was just something about the believability of him. I don't know. It was just I'm just like I just don't like this guy. Like there's something that doesn't fit the bill for me.
Well, I mean, ultimately, I don't think you were supposed to like him, of course, because you're like, how dare you say you're Captain America? You were not given the shield,
Very true. Very true. I have a very random question for you guys.
Ooh, is this a stumper or is this just a question?
Just a random question.
Oh, okay.
Random question. Just watching talent shows, a lot during the pandemic and stuff like that. I'm not a big reality show as far as, watching the Real Housewives of New York or Atlanta or
hey, don't diss on the
County
Jersey girls, all right? Don't diss on them.
Ridiculous.
They are
just fucking money grab. But I watch the singing shows. I'm really into music, so I watch the singing shows because I find them interesting.
Okay.
The people out there that can really sing, talent-wise. So the question kind of stems to, if there was one specific talent that you wish you had, what would it be?
Ooh, that's good. And I think we'll end our episode on this nice question. I like this. So we'll end it on our hidden talent that we wish we had.
I think Andrew would pick a professional wrestler. So I'm just guessing.
Yeah, we'll just say he would be a professional wrestler for sure. I think if I had a talent, it would be able to play an instrument, like guitar or drums, like something like that. Like I've always wanted to. Not that I couldn't just pick it up and start learning, but that would be like the talent that I wish I had, like to be able to play a musical instrument as the drums or guitar.
Yeah, like a true God-given talent. Like, Jeremy wants to be the next Slash. I dig it. Yeah,
for sure. I would have rocked out in a heavy metal band.
Or Jimi Hendrix. That's what we're doing here. All right. So Jeremy wants that instrument in his hands.
Because I pretend when I'm in the car and I'm listening to music, I pretend that I can play instruments. I'm that person. I'm like drum. Completely offbeat, have no idea what drum they're actually hitting.
I get you. Pat, what would you do? What would you do?
If I could, have like the talents of say like the Beatles, so to be able to actually sing, play an instrument, write songs. That'd be cool. I mean,
doesn't have to be music related. It could be
I
any
know.
type of
I'm just saying.
talent. I was just throwing an example.
I've also, something that I always thought maybe I could do, because I think I do have a little bit of talent, would be like being a voice actor.
I'm down with that for you.
Yeah, I can do some voices, but I wish I could do like any voice I wanted to, kind of thing. But I also don't know how that's like I don't know how you break into that industry. Like, and it's like, how do you get noticed for being a voice talent? So
YouTube, baby. YouTube.
Yeah.
Write an email to Mark Hamill. He'll tell you all about it.
Yes.
Yeah, you probably would.
I still remember the first time I realized that Mark Hamill was doing the voice of the Joker on Batman the Animated Series, and I was just flabbergasted beyond belief. As Florida State misses the field goal on overtime.
Woohoo!
Now you said you wanted
to end. Field goal.
You said you wanted to end. I wanted to discuss one thing very quickly.
Okay.
Because I asked you guys earlier.
I didn't tell my talent.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joe.
Just skip me. Just skip me. just skip me. This is what I felt like. That's what I felt like right there.
No, come back.
I'm kidding.
Come back to us.
Mine would be to sing, to be honest. I want the male version of Whitney Houston's voice, God damn it. That's what I want. But no, singing would be my thing.
So
I love all
want to be
the God-given talent to sing. Be who?
So you want to be Marvin Gaye? I'm just trying to think of the male equivalent of Whitney Houston's voice.
I'm down with that. John Legend, whatever. Those guys like that.
Yeah, maybe John Legend would be a better analogy for Whitney Houston. Maybe Usher.
Yeah. Kind of, sort of. But yeah, I just besides sports and things like that, I'm really big into music. I love the singing reality shows. I listen to I watch The Voice and stuff like that. So
yeah, an athlete is something I definitely wouldn't want because of the inherent pressures of being an athlete. The fact that you have to be so vigilant about keeping your body in shape. Well,
I could do that if I had to, but I mean,
yeah, no, but it's not like
I'm not getting paid to do it.
Oh, it's like it's not just about keeping yourself in shape. It's about keeping yourself in absolute tip top shape.
Yeah.
So, and just I don't think I could handle some of the other things that go along with being an athlete, like the travel and shit like that. So,
I get you.
I wouldn't want anything like that. But okay, so there's two things real quick. First of all, the MCU. All right, so the rest of Phase 4, you got the Eternals in November,
which is going to be interesting.
Spider-Man in December, or let me rephrase that: Spider-Man No Way Home in December.
Yeah.
Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness in March. So that'll be interesting. Excuse me. Thor: Love and Thunder in May. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever in July. Yeah. Excuse me. We'll of course see what they do with with Chadwick Boseman's death in that one. The Marvels next November. So it's basically Captain Marvel 2, but
they're bringing in Miss Marvel and one of the others.
Yeah. And then Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania in February of 2023. And Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in May of 2023. And then after that, nothing is firmly on the books, but under this thing that they have that's called unscheduled projects, it's Fantastic Four and X-Men and Blade and Captain America 4 and Deadpool 3.
They're going to redo Blade. Interesting.
Yes, with Mahershala Ali, who pretty much strikes me as being an ideal person to play that role. He's a little older than I think Wesley Snipes was when Wesley Snipes first played it, but I think he definitely has the physicality. And Notre Dame wins on
the field goal.
They escaped.
So what's your second thing?
All right. So I mentioned, I was texting you guys about this earlier in the week. If you subscribe to The Athletic, the Athletic's, online sports website, which is very good. It's well worth the yearly. I think it's well worth the yearly subscription price. But anyway, so last year they did an MLB 100 where they did a countdown of the best 100 players in baseball of all time. Well, they've been doing one for the NFL, and they're up to number 4 now. So I'm not going to go through the whole list because that would be ridiculous. So I'm just going to give you where they were from 20 through number 4, which is where they ended today. And I pretty much know who the top 3 are going to be, though I don't know in which order. So number 20 was Bruce Smith. Number 19 was Ronnie Lott. Number 18 was Dan Marino. Number 17 was Ray Lewis. Number 16 was Deacon Jones. Number 15 was John Elway. Number 14 was Joe Green. Number 13 was Don Hudson. Number 12 was Anthony Munoz. Number 11 was Otto Graham. Number 10 was Dick Butkus. Number 9, Johnny Unitas. Number 8, Walter Payton. Number 7, Peyton Manning. Number 6, Joe Montana. Number 5, Reggie White. And number 4, Lawrence Taylor. And
you said these are the 100 greatest players in the NFL, right?
Yes.
For the Athletic.
I'm good with where they put Reggie White. I was waiting for you to say his name in the top 20. I was like, oh, they better have him in the top 20.
Yeah. So like I said, Reggie White number 5, Lawrence Taylor number 4.
I'm surprised with Peyton Manning being so high, to be honest. And I love Peyton Manning, but he's number 7, you said?
Yep. Numbers 1, 2, and 3 in whatever order are going to be Tom Brady, Jim Brown, and Jerry Rice.
Yeah.
That's pretty much a given because they haven't been on the list yet, and there's no way they're not. So,
yeah.
So, like I said, so that was number 22, number 4. So I will just put it out to you. Is there anybody that you might be wondering where they ranked on the list, if they ranked on the list?
Joe Namath.
I don't think Namath was on the list, but I could be wrong. No, he was not.
Wow.
Joe Namath, you gotta realize was a bigger.
He was an attraction.
He was a bigger star. He was a bigger star than he was a good football player.
Yeah.
Like if you ever go look up his numbers were really pretty terrible. It's really a wonderment as to why he's in the Hall of Fame. And it's basically it's really just because of Super Bowl 3.
Yeah.
But when you also come to look at the word famous, Joe Namath defines that. He does. I won't ever deny that.
Fur coats and all that shit.
Yeah, but I mean, I think Joe Namath finished with. Not only do I think he threw more interceptions and touchdowns in his career, but I also believe he had a below 50% completion percentage for his career. Now, granted, the game was not as aerial when he played as it is now, but still,
compared to other quarterbacks in his era, that's pretty not so good.
Right. I mean, he was not as good as a ton of guys who played in the late 60s and into the, mid to late 70s. He obviously wasn't as good as somebody like Fran Tarkenton, who of course never won a Super Bowl, lost 3. You could probably say, I don't think you would say he was as good as guys like Bart Starr. He might not even have been as good as guys like Darryl LaMonica and Ken Stabler and Ken Anderson and Sonny Jurgensen. So, that's there were some guys I was surprised ranked as high as they did. There were some guys that were surprised ranked as low as they did. Like, for example, Emmitt Smith was number 29 I just figured he would have been higher, being the all-time leading rusher and how much he drove my team crazy. So, but at the same time, it's again when you go across positions and everything, it is hard to really rank guys like this. So,
yeah,
but
and he stayed in the league a lot longer than what he needed to just to pad his stats too.
To an extent, yeah. But I mean, I think it was with him. I think it was more along the lines of feeling like he still had to prove that he had something left when he, unfortunately, for him, didn't. Because like those 2 years that he played in Arizona were totally unnecessary. He had already broken the record, and I think it was more because it was like that was basically the thing. It was like Bill Parcells got hired to coach the Cowboys, and pretty much the first thing they did was cut Emmitt Smith. And that was because he was past his prime at that point. It was time for them to move on. But I think he took that personally and he took it as like a challenge where he said, I still have to prove that I have something left. And again, like I said, he really didn't. But the other problem was he picked probably at the time the worst possible team he could have to try to prove that he still had something left, because Arizona sucked. So
yeah,
they definitely did.
It was if you wanted to prove that he still had something left, you needed to pick a better team than Arizona. But there's a very good chance that nobody else had any interest in him at that point too.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's an interesting list overall. If you can even just like Google it, if you find somebody who listed out, it's a pretty interesting list. So, just I always like things like this because, of course, it always starts the great debates and everything like that.
Yes, it does.
Like I even commented about LT today. I said, oh man, I was really kind of hoping he would have been higher than number 4. And somebody came back to me and said, well, who that he's behind would you put him ahead of? And I just said, well, yeah, that's just it. I said, I mean, how can I justify ranking him ahead of Jerry Rice or Jim Brown or Tom Brady? I said, maybe Jerry Rice. I said, I really don't know if I could justify ranking him ahead of the other two. And it's like, look, I said, it's biased. That's me saying that too, because I came of age as a football fan during his prime with the Giants and everything. And I was a Giants, am a Giants fan. And I said, and really, he is the highest ranked defensive player on the list. So how much can you really complain about? Oh, he's only number 4. So
yeah, it's well, and it's funny. Like somebody put up this, and I'm just gonna say this real quick because you mentioned Jerry Rice. Somebody put up this thing. I guess it's just it's a picture, and it says best athletes to never win MVP. Now I don't know if this was a season MVP, or not. I'm gonna go with probably season MVP because they're not all in the same sport. But Jerry Rice never won an MVP.
Yeah, and that's
kind of interesting for as good as he was. But I feel like in that era, a lot of the MVPs went to the quarterbacks or the running backs.
Yeah, absolutely. And usually almost always the quarterbacks too. When Lawrence Taylor won the NFL MVP in 1986. He was only the second defensive player to have ever done so. The other one was Alan Page of the Vikings back in 1971. And no other defensive player has won since LT.
Oh, so shit.
We're talking.
Breaking news, Adam Cole has showed up to the pay-per-view.
Adam Cole?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Nice.
Well, all I can say is this then.
Damn.
And he's using his name and he's using the baby.
I hope
allowed to.
I hope AJ didn't make it that obvious. Then
I hope he brought extra underwear.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying that's what I'm saying when I say I hope he didn't make it that obvious.
Sorry, AJ, we're gonna make fun of you on this one. You're gonna be walking it out with a wet spot in front of your shorts or whatever.
Anyway, so since Lawrence Taylor won the NFL MVP in 1986, so we're talking 35 years here. everybody to have won the award since then has been either a quarterback or a running back. And it's only been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those times has it been a running back. You know,
wow.
I'm sorry. I love quarterbacks and I think they're important, but shit, if there's not other people on those teams that allow those teams to win, then the people that vote on the MVP are freaking just dumb as rocks.
I get what you're saying, but it's a quarterback league. It really always has been, no matter what at least in the more modern times. And it's definitely, of course, become that way since the game has become so much more aerial even in the last 10, 15 years or so. There really, when you come right down to it, there is no more important position in all of sports than quarterback. The only other one that might compare in the way the game's transitioned, I don't even think it does anymore, is starting pitcher. You know, because there's no other position on the field that can control the game in such a way. So that's why the quarterbacks generally always win it. And you also look at the teams who've won the Super Bowls. I mean, there are teams that have, with very few exceptions, like the Ravens, and that's because they had such a phenomenal defense that year. It's teams that have superb quarterbacks. You know, it is your Tom Brady's and your Peyton Manning's and your Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre's and John Elway's and Kurt Warner's who are winning the Super Bowl. So, the Joe Flacco's and Brad Johnson's who win the Super Bowls are much more the exception than the rule. So, it's really, it is about having the great quarterback that, kind of runs the gears, I guess you could say.
Are you fucking serious?
No, I'm not serious.
What, Joe?
Daniel Bryan just showed up now.
Oh my God.
Okay, see, now that's...
They should have spaced that shit out.
They were talking about doing that. Daniel Bryan wasn't supposed to show up till the New York pay-per-view.
But they're getting worried that the New York show could get
canceled or no fans.
Restricted.
So Adam Cole just cut a promo. He said it's story time with Adam Cole, baby. And he said the Elite is the most dominant faction in wrestling history, blah, 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 going on today. And he goes, and there's no chance in hell anyone's going to stop us. And I was like, oh, there's your shot at WWE. Okay.
All right. Well, here's the thing. They've blown their load now.
Yes. So Daniel Bryan standing next to Christian and Jungle Boy. Daniel Bryan's going after the Elite.
Getting just 1 million viewers a week is not going to cut it anymore.
No,
they're going to have to be pulling in more than that now, pretty quick. So I'm not saying they can. I'm saying they have to.
Oh yeah, they have to now.
Otherwise, it's going to have been too much too soon.
Oh,
because now in the span of what 3 weeks now, they've given us Punk and Cole and Bryan.
Yeah, and Ruby Soho.
Yeah, and Bray Wyatt could be on the way. So, all right. Well, hey, ball's in your court now.
Yeah.
So we got some Bryan junk, baby.
Ball's in your court now. AEW, run with it or shut the fuck up.
They can't. The thing with WWE is they have nothing to come back with this.
No, they really
don't. They have Brock.
They had Brock and Becky, and they played those cards. The only other thing they could do would be the only other thing they could conceivably do anything would be The Rock, and we know that can't happen for any number of reasons. So,
yeah, and if it does happen, it's not going to happen until after Reigns and Brock's feud's over.
Yeah.
So what? January?
Yeah. Well, that's just it. Yeah, they're not gonna bring Rock back just because Yeah.
No.
All right. So with that awesome, enlightening news of AEW and blowing their load all over everybody, and then AJ blowing his load in his pants, we're going to call it a night.
we should all text them that as soon as we get off.
But As always, we just want to thank everybody for tuning in, whether you're catching this live on Facebook, you watch it later on YouTube, you listen on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, wherever you're catching us. We thank you for tuning in, listening to our crazy babbling and bullshit that we do each and every week. Yeah, a lot of bullshit. Yeah, a lot of bullshit. But we have fun, and we hope you guys have fun listening. And, if you want to just hit us up, you can hit us up at, what is our email address there, Joe? It's Four Guys Roundtable Show.
I don't even know.
No, it's fourguysroundtable@gmail.com. There's not the show in there. I think you couldn't get the show in there. I think it's Four Guys Roundtable.
I don't. Let me verify that stuff. So you gotta. Oh man,
gotta prompt you with that. Be ready with the.
You hit me with shit I didn't know.
But you can drop us a line on Facebook, of course, and that's Four Guys Roundtable Show on Facebook. You can also hit us up at Twitter at Four Guys Roundtable. So we're always there on those two things. So once again, thank you for dropping in, and we want to say good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, and we'll catch you on the next episode.